This video will discuss the major issues around the misrepresentation of women, specifically around video games, aiming to expand your knowledge about the rising issues and give clarity on how it affects both men and women, as well as how the misrepresentation of women within the gaming industry has created unrealistic stereotypes around behaviors, dressing, and body standards. This is relevant to the gaming industry as continuous misrepresentation of women has had a negative impact since around the late 1980s, leading to an increase in the media's attention around games. This increased attention has obviously brought these issues to surface, with major changes being made around character designs for both men and women. Females being represented as the damsel in distress has been around since the early 1980s, creating unrealistic stereotypes about women and their ability to protect themselves. One prominent example is from Resident Evil 4's side female character Ashley Graham, who is the main story's motive for the game, with Leon Kennedy, the game's protagonist, needing to continuously save her from any danger. From the game, Ashley has a common plea of "Leon, help," further portraying Ashley as a damsel in distress, leading to the game itself reinforcing the idea that she is weaker than her male protagonist. Oversexualization is arguably a more serious issue that the female gender face both inside and outside of games. Oversexualization creates unrealistic expectations that evolve into stereotypes that are always harmful to those affected by it. One study conducted by the Journal of Experimental Science suggests that exposure to sexualized media characters leads to increase in self-objectification and decreased body satisfaction in female users. They also found that from games in 2003, only 14% of all characters were female, 41% of which were depicted in heavily sexualized clothing, and 43% were depicted partially or fully nude, compared to only 11% and 4% of males, respectively. These contribute to the negative stereotypes and reinforce the misrepresentation of women in games. It's not just the clothing of female characters that are styled to be over sexualized, but the proportions of certain body parts as well. Defined in modern slang as curvy women, video games created more unrealistic expectations when it comes to body shapes as well, leading to an expected body shape to resemble an hourglass, leading to the gender based stereotypes against women. Since exposure to younger audiences reaches 27 minutes a day for children aged 8 to 18, children become more exposed to this kind of graphic content, and from that exposure, it influences younger ages' behaviors with increased proneness to sexual violations of peers and disgusting expectations being drawn from seeing this type of content at such a young age. Despite efforts to try and reduce sexualized content within games, children are still exposed to sexual content in some form, leading to these body standards and expectations still being prominent. The creation of oversexualized characters leads into the marketing for games to follow with the designs already classed as being sexually appealing. This increases the chances of a young child being exposed to adult content and leading to an increase of sexual violations within young children. Since major titles tend to be marketed heavier, women have a smaller chance of escaping these obscure views and have a higher risk of facing sexual abuse as a result. Because these misrepresentations are marketed as the standard, young males typically expect these unrealistic things from women. It further creates unrealistic stereotypes around behaviors, dressing, and body standards. However, around the 1990s, a study was conducted about the portrayal of gender in video games, and around this time was the release of the Tomb Raider. Lara Croft had, end quote, paved the way for a woman who contrasts the dominant stereotype, end quote. This singular motion had led to the increase in female protagonists moving into the 2000s, with releases like Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, with Jill Valentine being the game's main protagonist and having a male character as a secondary protagonist. This shift paved the future of the industry to lead more female characters into the role of the protagonist and changed outside views on the gaming industry, creating a much healthier environment for gamers to play in, specifically for female. It is quite clear that despite countless efforts to break these unrealistic expectations for women and create a safer environment for them to game inside of, it's still quite a it's still a quite prevalent issue. However, the situation around misrepresented female characters in game have improved since more females are taking on the protagonist role and breaking the standard set back during the early gaming era.